Advocacy can be a very powerful tool. When you speak on matters that you care about, you can sow a seed that can make a lasting impact on people around you. Join me on today's episode as I talk to Doyinmole Paul-Oyewusi about sustainable fashion advocacy. Welcome to the Sustainability Nugget podcast. I am Rarasu Maraivi.
And I'm Tosin Folorunsho.
On this podcast, we learn about sustainability by discussing various related topics while focusing on three pillars: the economy, the society, and the environment. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Sustainability Nugget podcast. I'm so excited about this episode because I'm finally able to interview with my wonderful friend, Doyinmole Paul-Oyewusi. So we actually met in 2018. We just reconnected. I think last year was when you reached out to me, right? So it's an interesting story. She just, reached out to me and she sent me a pre-wedding photo shoot pictures. I was like, oh, congratulations, yay. And then she asked, did you notice anything in the picture? And I was like, oh yeah, your outfit is gorgeous. Is there anything else I should be looking for? And then like, oh, the earrings. I was like, okay, they're nice. And then she's like, you made them for me. Oh, that was heartwarming because it just took me back to the days when I just started learning about sustainable fashion, learning about the waste problem in the fashion industry, and just, not only the fashion industry and everything, just dealing with, textile waste, but also plastic waste at that time. And Doyin was one of the few people that really just listened to me as I started doing these online campaigns and sharing my story, sharing my experiments, the things I was doing with just all of my upcycling projects that I was doing online. And she was also willing to experiment with me. So Doyinmole is a Nigerian fashion model, fashion entrepreneur, and now a sustainability advocate. It's been just interesting to watch our journey into this space, and now her advocating for others to, take on the same journey that we have, which is just learning about the issues with the environment, the issues with the fashion industry, and how to be a change maker, how to actually make lasting impact. So Doyinmole, would you just share your story with us, how you got here, apart from the role I had to play, the subtle role that I played?
Subtle but fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. I am so honored to be here with you on this podcast. So you've rightly introduced me. I'm the founder of Adire and Crafts Nigeria. I am a fashion sustainability advocate. I basically educate people about the importance of sustainable fashion and the importance of them being intentional about their fashion lifestyle. And that translates to getting them to take positive action for the planet. It started in 2015 as a fashion model. Actually, I've always been somebody who loves creativity, who loves to try my hands on things, be it bead making, fashion design, nail artistry. I've done quite a number of crafts in time past, right? So being a fashion model, I also was required to train people on what I deemed fit, right? So I'll go to different pageants, and this question they continue to ask is, what will you do with this opportunity? What will you do with this crown? And it got to a time okay, this is something I want to do. And I decided to learn a craft. Before this time, I'd met with you, and you had, through the online platform, through the products that I encountered or had to wear in 2018 thereabout, I could understand what fashion sustainability means, or what it just meant. I mean, at that time, to me, reusing or raw materials or reusing waste, right? I remember using threads, plastic. I can't remember the details now because it's not so much of my thing right now, but I kept those things even up until now. I have some of the materials that you need. So I decided to learn a craft that had to do with the Nigerian indigenous fashion, and that was Adire. If you're not Nigerian, tie-dye would be more familiar to you, or batik making. So I learned Adire making, and with that, I began to train other people on how to, make these indigenous crafts that I had learned. I started a business with that as well. But with my understanding of sustainable fashion, I wanted to not only create new fashion outfits or new Adire textiles, I was very keen on doing something that has to do with upcycling, that had to do with sustainable fashion. And really what I chose was just training people how to, revamp their clothing themselves with this indigenous Nigerian craft I had learned and even started a business with. Right. So I'll charge little to nothing, sometimes even, train people for free, and also charge for revamping their old clothes. So I found so much joy in just, getting people's old clothes and then recycling them with the craft I have learned. And you definitely did a big one, even though it felt like a subtle thing, but it's one of the things that has brought me here today. There's always a seed, right? So you were one of those persons that sowed, the seeds of sustainable fashion in me, and that has definitely brought me here today.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I definitely am inspired, and I appreciate the fact that when you were thinking of what business you wanted to do, and I usually tell people here in the US where I'm like, Nigeria is the kind of place where I think due to the economic issues, the youth are trained to. So you get an education, you get a degree, but on the side, you have to learn a skill.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I tell people also like that's where my journey started, and I wouldn't be here still doing fashion, sustainable fashion, while I was in school. 'Cause I didn't do a fashion degree, so even while I was in school, I didn't pick up like what I really loved, which is fashion, and just take that as an entrepreneurial side. But yeah, I like the fact that you were able to take on the indigenous thing, like tradition in Nigeria, just taking up tie-dye, Adire making. I think, and it really makes your business, your brand unique. And then, adding that twist of revamping, upcycling. Honestly, it gives me such pleasure and just joy when I see, your posts online. It's been nice to just watch your journey through that space. Yeah, and I'm very grateful for you. The question I was asking, what's been the most surprising thing you have learned since you pivoted into upcycling, sustainable fashion, waste issues? Yeah, what's one of the most interesting things that surprised you about the fashion industry, or just what you've been doing?
The most surprising thing has to be the level of awareness of people. Allow me to say it like this. People are not aware. They're ignorant. Yeah, I think that's just the perfect word. They use clothing, they own clothing, but they don't know where clothing comes from or where it even ends up. Right. And that's where I come in, sustainable fashion education, getting them to really understand, what fashion is from the lens of a sustainable fashion advocate, right? And also how they can manage their clothing. The ones that they have, for example, the thousands of clothing that they have right now, so that it would not end up where, clothing end up for I mean, it has to be just ignorance. People are not, they're not so aware. They have clothing, but they're not doing with clothing what they should, because it's almost, I think it's one of the most affordable things to get, especially in this part of the world that I am in. I am actually in a developing country, and many of these developed countries tend to send in clothing to
secondhand,
like Nigeria. Secondhand clothing. Lately, people have been calling it pre-loved clothing, treated clothing. So they are usually very, very affordable. 2,000 naira, 3,000 naira, 5,000 naira mark for, secondhand clothing that people can still afford, and even certain brands that you will consider fantastic in quote. You consider fantastic to wear those clothing. You can buy them for as low as 10,000 naira. So it's almost like, I'm wearing premium, so I can continue to buy this for as low as I can get it, right? And you keep piling up clothing in your wardrobe without thoughts for, people keep doing that without thoughts for, just what sustainable fashion is, their lifestyle, how they nurture it, how they restyle, how they declutter when they no longer need, and things like that.
It's interesting to hear your perspective and really just listen to what to hear that's what's most surprising for you, because when I moved to the US from Nigeria, I used to think, and I still think and tell people that at least back home or in most like developing countries, like our culture, it's kind of intrinsic to still love what you have and not throw it away immediately. Or like we have this culture of like hand-me-downs where like when you don't want to wear clothing anymore, or you outgrow a particular clothing, you would give it to maybe your friend or or something. We have to go to court or things like that. Yes, the second-hand market, of course, that has been existing for a long time. I'm just saying, before both of us were both safe. And it's the price point you're talking about now is interesting, because before I left Nigeria, also it was not that, to me, quote, expensive, but I get like that's dollar to naira rates. That's another story for that day. But
that's exactly.
So I just find it interesting that you say now that people are no longer aware, or just like what they just keep buying because it's available, especially second-hand clothing is available. And I think for me, that's coming to realization that capitalism and just like consumerism is already influencing like even the culture of like most, developing nations as we know. It's like people now just, it's everywhere. There are clothes everywhere. It's easier to get clothing now, which is like, that's the thing, like it's a good and a bad side, where it's like the good side is like at least people now there's access to clothing. That's undeniable right now, right? Like, and access to cheap clothing. You can wear good clothes now thanks to the second-hand market. But also it's like
extreme.
Yeah, that's it. Like I'll take this and go and reflect on it. Really. So now that coming to that realization, like people don't know, what has been people's response to your campaigns? Like how have people received your campaign?
I remember somebody coming to me and saying, I need to address Ashwebi. That's what we call like this, I think you said to call it uniform outfits for parties, like family, Nigerian parties, right? So she literally came to me and said, you need to talk about Ashwebi outfits. People wear Ashwebi outfits or buy Ashwebi outfit for weddings, burials, for ceremonies every single week.
Yeah, there's actually for everything.
For everything, birthdays, in fact.
Okay.
Bridal shower, I mean, the giftless things, naming ceremony, there's actually for it. And what that action of ours taught me is, or brought to my awareness, was people are actually listening to what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is sinking in what the information, the knowledge that I'm passing across about sustainable fashion. And the fact that I'm also driving it home is so much in context that I will not use terms that, the developed countries, for example, are using. I will not use terms that the Nigerian creative or fashion designer or tailor, as we call them in Nigeria, will not understand, right? Every single person that's in Nigeria can easily understand what reusing means, what restyling means, what repairing means. So just using those terms and really just creating resource materials like fashion discussions with Doyinmole, that's a video series, writing articles, posting about it on social media has made me understand that people are actually listening to me. That's the first one. Then very recently, that was, I think, 4 months ago, in April. Yes, that's 4 months ago. I had a 30-day sustainable fashion challenge, and that even first of all opened up to me that people are not so aware about this, because the simplest thing that has to do with you just caring for your clothes to give it like a longer time frame with you. People don't understand how to do that. How to, segment their clothing, how to restyle their clothing. I brought a number of, because I'm not an expert in all of these different things, right? Styling, decluttering, the people who sell second-hand outfits, and also train people about sustainable fashion, people who upcycle as well. So all of these, experts in the different, elements of sustainable fashion, I had to bring them on board. And the testimony from that 30-day sustainable fashion challenge had to do with, I didn't know this before now. And now I know, and I'm able to take action. It had to also do with them taking actions for the 30 days, really understanding what, it means for them to wear clothes on a daily basis and being conscious in quotes that, okay, this is the fabric I'm wearing. This is the textile I'm wearing. And it has been very impactful because people now come to me and say, can you teach me about this? Or can you teach me this particular upcycled craft? I'm like, I don't even know this particular craft you're asking me for, but it's exciting to see that people are interested in even doing. I brought a lot of tailors or fashion designers in general parlance on the challenge, and they went on to create things that they would have used a new piece of clothing for. They used a waste or scrap fabric they had in their wardrobe prior to the challenge, and that's really interesting for an impact for me. It's in the little knowledge here and there that people expound on. Like what you did to me, so they see that I took it on from them.
Yeah, I think that's really important to point out, is just the impact we make. Like the person who asked you, like, what about actually you should address that? And it's like, you already have what you're addressing. And, the more you keep unpacking, so there's also this and there's also that. And the fact is that the more people know about it, someone can also take up that part. Like, let's just, for both of us, for example, like I was mostly at that time, I wasn't doing Adire. I was just, for me, it's like, okay, I'm a fashion designer. I can make clothes. I'm a tailor. I can make clothes. Instead of buying new fabric and, using them to make and adding on to these, because I literally kept like a bag of all these scraps from clothing that I made for over a year. And that's why I started just like pulling out of pulling out of that scrap to make jewelry for you to make, like experiment and make jewelry, make clothing uh, at that time. And so it's like seeing that and then deciding, okay, I'm going to implement this into Adire. You have already opened up, a whole new world. Yeah. And so it's like people will keep finding for the fashion designers that you were able to join your challenge, for example. Now they are taking on trying what they've learned. It's really about the knowledge and now you're able to apply it to
yes. Right.
to your to your enterprise really. And that's it's for me it gives me hope. It's fascinating also just to watch people be like, oh, I didn't know about it. Yeah, well, I mean, no, it's just being, I think, giving people grace, honestly, because to a certain extent, it's not their fault. It's just like what you don't know, you don't know, and now that you know, it's like, so what are you going to do about it? But also, like I feel, as I said earlier, like I still think that it's still a part of our culture, and there is access to, for example, repair. That's one of the things when I relocated. That's one of the things that I really struggled with. So it's just like you can't have your fabric, like your clothing rip, and then like the first thing you think about is, oh yeah, there's a tailor close to my house. I'm gonna give it to make it non-existent. I mean, things are shaping up now. There's more communities, doing stuff like that, with people online or in person doing stuff like that. But compared to a place like Nigeria, where there are, I mean, there are tailors everywhere, and they can do repairs for you. So I think like it's still, for me, I'm still proud of that part of our culture, and it's just like, and so I say like there's a part of us, there are things that we are doing that is already sustainable. It's just like now that you have learned about the issues that we have, like, okay, so think about how to really, really apply what you already know, what the practices you already have. Or like not implement habitats to this issue. And so
for example, I mean something coming to my mind right now is to add on to the culture of repairing or culture of using things till they can't breathe anymore. You understand what I mean? To add to that, we'll be actually getting people to understand why it's important to buy what they genuinely need, right? Because that's one of the things that just adds up to the wardrobe in a very actually, for example, a lot of persons don't even need it. They're buying out of impulse, out of emotions, or I'll be left out.
Social pressure.
Social pressure, right? And so if they don't buy, or if they don't buy a certain uniform, aside Ashrebi, in fact, they could feel like something is just missing. So getting them to, begin to act on that, like, I genuinely don't need everything, or I should not want everything in that sense, with the knowledge of sustainable fashion or where clothing eventually end up, and just really putting that into adding that to the culture we already have. I think it'd be very, 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 very great.
Yeah, that's well said. That's what it reminds me of something I learned from my mother, like watching my mother growing up. I realized, and I think this is more just her personality. She never really liked aesthetic stuff like that, and I think she just passed that on to all her children. Where it's like it's just for me, and then for it also makes. He added on to that feeling of, I don't want to wear uniform. Uniform is the right word. Where I'm like, for me, I really didn't like Asha, because I'm like, why are we all looking the same? I don't want uniform. I mean, for me, growing up, it's like, I already have all these uniforms. Like, everybody else. But then also it's just like I watch my mom ask. So when there's a party, she would ask her friends like, "What's the color?" And if she had that color, she'd wear it. Or she,
I love that.
yeah, or she just be, and that's yeah. I mean, far back as when I was growing up, it's just so. And again, that's I think that was just a personality of even if she had the money, she would still ask for a like, is it white? I have like white, slightly white lace in my wardrobe. Let me go and pick one of it. Yeah, you know,
Best case to do.
yeah. It's only when she couldn't like it's unavoidable or things like that. Yeah, she could. Sometimes she would have to give in, but I think from her watching that really helped. Watching her do that, helped me realize there are options, right? And I just grew up with that concept too. Where yeah, I'm also like, no, I don't want to pack like the view. I don't want to get if it's avoidable, please. You can avoid. So, what are some exciting projects that you're currently working on? I know you had mentioned the 30-day challenge that you had. Is there anything you had also done in the past that you'd like to share, or something that you have coming up now?
What I have coming up, I mean, if you're listening to this, oh my God, and you have or you know somebody who constructs bags, there's suitcases, traveling bags. I mean, I'm not even afraid to share this idea. That's what's coming up. We want to use decluttered clothing. I mean, I'm wearing a sequence jacket right now. The moment the jacket says, you know what, I'm not great to be worn anymore, as a sustainable fashion advocate and an enthusiast, it's easy to know when something would not even last anymore. So those kind of clothing will be shredded into like smaller bits and used to create a bag, right? So of course I'll not share the entire idea, but that's what I have coming up.
Okay.
If you know anybody who can construct a traveling bag, I mean, this is me talking about the idea, and also soliciting for a fantastic crafts person, because that's not an area that everything is learnable anyway. So you can in the next 3 months see Doyinmole that has started making a construction bags. To be very honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a very fantastic project coming up, and we are going to be using tons and tons of wastes to create these bags. No new material will be included, except it's going to be for aesthetics or for definition of a pattern we've created. Well, 90% of the textile that will be used. In fact, 95% of textiles that will be used are going to be waste clothing from scrap from tailor shops, clothing from people's wardrobes that we no longer know what to do with them and things like that. Yeah, that's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm definitely excited for you. Side note, I actually learned how to make bags. I learned how to make bags in Nigeria, but of course, I never went into it like actually making my own. So you're specifically looking for suitcases, like people that make suitcases and traveling bags. Yeah. So yeah, that's how it is. If you are listening and you know how to, or know someone who knows how to,
let's make the world.
Wait, exciting. Yeah. So, what are some challenges that you have encountered now that you are, looking to solve or just get over?
So, regarding sustainable fashion, like I said, some persons are not aware. And also, the sad thing is, I'm going to refer to the 30-day challenge now. As much as lots of persons very, very serious about taking actions, some also felt, it's very uninteresting to break out of something you've always done for years, something that is like part of you, right? So definitely one of the challenges has to be, people who you're training, they don't take action that you need them to take in the moment. And those actions are actually they're simple. Like styling, for example, just really learning. What did you say?
They seem simple to you.
Well, simple to me, yeah. And I also feel because, when the trainer trains one, while I understand that people also have different ways they grasp things, understand things, and all. These clothing are already part of clothing's own. Already people's own, like having their wardrobe. So parents getting into the action of sustainable fashion, and that way it would even be easier. So really getting people to break out of the norm has to be one of the challenges, right? People are not willing to even declutter their old clothes. They're not willing to let go of it, because also there's that Nigerian or African mentality that, I don't want to give anybody my old clothes, or what are they going to do with it, and things like that. But definitely education is helping them break out of it bit by bit, and hopefully the ones that they still hold on to and have nothing to do with, they would eventually declutter it. Another challenge has to be fashion designers, right? Like that's scraps. They will continue to, or should I call them tailors now? They will continue to have scraps. I don't know if this is my personal challenge or just a general thing that I see. Fashion designers are not willing to be innovative. The scraps that they have in their workshops can do a lot if they don't buy new clothing at all, but new textiles, new fabrics or materials at all. But people people I've interacted with now, I'm not being generalistic. They're longer, I don't even know what to create. The exact same thing you're creating as new can be, you can use wastes or a put together, fabric for it, instead of going ahead to buy a new one, right? So just the innovative, creative side of people don't want to do the hard work. And because I'm an educator that loves to see when people take action, it's almost like, you can't do this thing, so why are you not taking action already? So that's one thing, but definitely the education, the discussions that we have, the action points that I give them are making things better than that it is making things worse. So
I think it's just constantly reminding yourself that you have sown a seed. Sometimes it's like depending on the what's the word, the soil in quotes that you sow the seed, it would grow, or it might fly away to somebody else. So it will grow regardless. So I think it's also from the perspective of someone who used to make clothes when I was still making clothes actively. I think one of the challenges is first, the same with people, like individuals also, breaking out of the norm is usually challenging for people. So you could put all the steps forward, like this is what you should do, but sometimes we just find it hard to like break away from that normal cycle of this is how things are usually done. And then in a society where, and this is general, this is global, like there's always that constant need to prove yourself somehow or some way. And to be honest, clothing is one of those ways. It's a big major factor in how people, like show up in front of people. Personal. So I think for fashion designers, it's also that thing where it's like if I tailor in Nigeria, and it's one of the things I struggled with too, where people are the ones that oftentimes would bring their clothing to you, right? Like if you're doing, custom made stuff, like they already have the clothes they want to sew. So you can't tell them, no, I want to come and use the scrap out here. And that's for a while I had to like just pivot from, trying to still make money, have clients, but willing to see the ones that just checking out the ones that would be willing to experiment with me, like you. That's where I'm really thankful that, I had someone like you, someone like my sister-in-law, for example, who was willing to just go with me. She could still, send styles or ask me to just make something, but she was at least willing to try on what I had. People like you were actually, you helped my journey, to be honest, because I felt validated in that moment where it was like, yeah, it was a struggle to have all this scrap and not be able to use it, not because I didn't want to, right? I started making stuff for myself from the scraps I had, but I need to stay on stage. And so it's like, who is willing to buy it? And then, some scraps might be like, oh, it's a new skill. Like, if I went to buy a clothes in the market, maybe I'll just cut the clothes and that's it, But it's like, here you have pieces of fabric that you might have to like join together. And the fashion, a tailor could just be like, where do I have time for that one? So, it's really trying to break out of that box. To be honest, it's hard, but I know it's possible. And I think one thing I'm just going to end with is there's a chance to switch norms where until this thing and that is why people like you are important. What you're doing is important because the more you continue to talk about it, and I really love the fact that you said the reason why I really love the 30-day challenge that you did, and I hope you continue, is like just getting people into that space where it's not like you just told them, oh, this is a problem, go and figure it out yourself. It's like, okay, you are walking them through the process for a while. Yeah, with them for a while. It's like a mentoring program. Like you can't be mentored and taught to do something and it won't have an impact. Maybe not immediately, but at least, and that's how things become a norm because the more you keep spreading, people are hearing about it, people are seeing people do it, and then they take it on. And, in the US, for example, see how secondhand clothing, like thrifting, just has become a norm kind of now. And I'm like, yeah, we've been doing that for a while. We've been doing that for a while in African countries. Yeah. It's been a while. Welcome to the show. Yeah, that's everything. I think, do you have any final words to share? I know you've mentioned the exciting project that you have coming up, and I'm looking forward to that. I'll keep watching your space to see. I just want to know if you have any final words to share to wrap up.
Okay, so that will be listening to this up until now is you getting access to learn about sustainable fashion, even in its simplicity, right? You want to go ahead to learn more. You want to go ahead to really understand how you can contribute to it alongside what you can do even as a fashion consumer or a fashion user. And that is somebody who wears clothes. There's something you can do. And if you have a particular craft, a particular skill, it may not be fashion related at all, but there's always something you can contribute to, ensuring that the sustainable fashion movement, the sustainable fashion story, how it connects to, a global crisis can be communicated. There's always a way to contribute to it. So I just want to encourage you to take action for sustainable fashion. And I'm here. Olatosin is also here to, just help or guide. And and please, final request. If you're somebody who knows how to make suitcases or knows a It could even be, it may not be an individual, it can just be an organization, a company. Just please reach out to either myself or our dear host. Yeah.
It's been nice to have you here. I'm so glad finally happened. And yes, I'm inspired by your journey and just continue doing what you're doing. Yeah. So viewers, thank you so much for watching till the end. See you in another episode. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to the Sustainability Nuggets podcast. I am Rarisu Maribi.
And I am Tosin Falarunsho. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave a rating and review on wherever you listen to your podcast.
You can also show your support by signing up for a small donation to help sustain future episodes. You can find all relevant links in the description. See you in our next episode.